We know that Trump now is our president, and we pray for him, and we know God is in control of every authority.
I just hope we have a future.
It's for anyone to come to America because there's no country like it.
So we went on a journey to America. We went to the South for a reason, right?
We wanted to explore Trump country, like the majority of the people voting for Donald Trump, the real redneck or so-called hillbilly states. If you go there, what would you find? Are the people really Trump fanatics and Republicans, or is there more to it than meets the eye?
Are they all shouting, "Took our job!
They took our job!"
That was a image we had with the truck,
Truck,
Driving a pickup truck and not caring about the environment, and
we did see a lot of pickup trucks.
with the double wheels. And don't forget Daytona Beach.
with the Harley.
Bike week. There's a 1 week a year that you can spot thousands of motorcycles.
And they were the rednecks we were searching for, right? They had the Confederate flags on the shoulders, the Trump shops everywhere.
3 of them.
Three Trump merchandise shops. And even I saw some guys wearing shirts like, "If you can read this, the
Bitch fell off and Hillary fell off."
Yeah,
we've seen that.
yeah.
I haven't.
So finally, someone with balls, and you saw Trump there with a jacket. But it was still Florida, right? Did we saw our ideas and our things of the rednecks? Did we saw them confirmed in the journey? That's the question, and we had a lot of interviews.
Partly we did, starting with the couple we met in the mountains of Northern Carolina, was it?
Yeah,
There was
the
a border
Smoky
region between
Mountains.
Tennessee and North Carolina.
Let's say
so-
the Smoky Mountains. And the couple we met, lovely couple, so incredibly sweet. How did they approach us anyway? We were on the mountain.
Something like, "Do you also feel the love of Jesus in your life?" Something like that.
And I said
they
only on Sunday. And she was
Right.
like, "Oh, you have to feel the Lord every day of the week, and not only on
Exactly.
Sunday."
But they were really nuanced. They voted for Trump, but they weren't the rednecks you were supposed, because they were really open. They said we don't like the building a wall. We should be open to all people, right? They were really leftish almost in that kind of sense.
But that's the thing that struck me the most. That we think as Europeans, as people living in the Netherlands, that you have 2 real choices in America, like Republican or Democrat, Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. And because we see those 2 choices on the news and on the shows we follow, the talk shows, that we think everybody is inside one of the 2 camps. But
they are really loyal to that camp. We think that.
Yeah, but it's totally not as black and white as we see it portrayed in the media, because a lot of people are swing voters. They are not sure what to vote or who to vote, and they see it from election to election
They vote for Trump but are really nuanced on his policies. They say, "Yeah, we voted for Trump, but we only have to choose between 2, and this is the less evil of the 2."
Yeah.
But they don't like it at all. But it's less evil than the other choice.
We have encountered that a couple of times, but then back with the couple on the mountain in the Smokies, the religious couple, what struck me was that obviously they felt like Republicans. They stated as such, but what they said there was their reasoning worked in a way that whatever would happen in the candidate being chosen by the Republican Party would be a sign of God, in which they had to place trust and have to.
In the beginning they said they didn't vote for Trump.
They didn't even like his primary.
That's true, and then it turned around because of the self-fulfilling prophecy.
Because they had a sign of God, not self-fulfilling. So God talked or dreamed or whatever. God had contact with them directly, whatever sense. And that's when they feel, oh wait, I should trust God, and God is saying to me that Trump is the candidate.
That's quite special.
Although I don't like him or I don't like his policy, God is talking, and I don't have the authority to question the Almighty of God.
And which is quite special, of course. But if you don't like something that's happening in the real world, and then you always have the answer. Yeah, God must have a reason for this.
Mm-hmm. But
So-
it's circular reasoning, right?
Of course,
because
but you
whatever
see-
happens
but you-
will be in some way resolved as well. There's a reason to it.
But at least they still think about it, of course. They have dreamed, they felt like, oh, this doesn't feel right that Trump is the candidate for their state. And they had a dream about it, and then they get to think about it. But deep in their hearts, they know there's something off here, of course. Your honeymoon still?
We've
Before
been
you
about a
head
month
back?
now, right?
We kept asking, you know, we went away on what we thought would be a 12-day Christmas trip just to visit my parents and his, and our wedding was set for June, but we just really felt led that God was moving it up, and so he did, and now 3 months later, the 12-day Christmas trip is 3 months. And we
That's a
kept,
very good attitude.
we kept asking, Lord, if you want us here longer, for whoever, whenever, wherever, do it, and if it just be to even talk to you, because we're supposed to be either leaving, we're debating now tomorrow or the next day, but that will be the end and we'll be going back home.
Okay.
I went through a homeless situation, everything was taken, I lost about everything, and I lived in a shelter, I lived in my car for 9 months, and then it was really difficult. And then I went through a shelter, I got a job, I got my first apartment on my own, went to a church God led me to through a program for homeless that took people in at night to get them off the street, churches. Led me to my church there, got on my outreach team, and that's where I met Michael, who is now my husband.
Yeah, and now you're traveling America.
Yes.
The program, which was called CAST, was, again, it's a program that takes people that are experiencing homelessness off the streets at night. They give them food to eat, and it's different churches each week that host it. You go out back to the street in the daytime, which is pretty difficult. It's really hard to get out of those situations, but that's one of the churches was ours, which is Coastlands Community Church, and that's in Chesapeake, Virginia. And I went through that program kind of kicking and screaming because I didn't want to go, and I would not have chosen that, but God did. It was like my rescue. I was very prideful.
But what strikes me as a European being in the United States is that you see a lot of signs, quick money, get it here if you need loans or whatever. We do no cash credit check for you. It's like easy cash is all around the corner if you want it.
Yes.
Do you think there's enough protection for people? Is it too easy to get in debt?
Yes, those things are very, very dangerous because everybody likes to do everything the quick way, the easy way out, get a buck. But then they bite into this bait where now you're in debt for life and you're almost, bound to that. Of course, America, we are a country that, has been very prosperous, but we've also become very prideful in that prosperity, and we can use that in a wrong way. And so people have forgotten where the prosperity has come from, and so we've left that being thankful and giving credit to God who really gave it. And so that's a downfall of our country.
So if there's more religion in your country, it's better.
It's better if we trust in the Lord, our God, to provide for us.
Having some type of, I think, religion, or actually our faith in God, gives us a sense of self-control. But when you don't have that, and then all you see what maybe some of the rich have all around you, because there's a lot of rich people in our country, and then you see this easy way to get a loan, I can have those things, and so that's an easy way to get that. But what they don't realize is the huge interest rates on those things, and once they take that loan and they can't pay it back, and then they become in bondage or into debt to that, and so it becomes, and then it destroys their credit even worse.
Never-ending cycle. We want our country to be a beacon of light to those who come here.
Is he a true Christian in your eyes, Trump?
I believe that he knows God, and I believe that God has dealt with his heart, and he has come out publicly and boldly and proclaimed the word of God before the nation. I think that God is working on his heart. He's like a man like everyone else. We struggle with fear, we struggle with pride, we struggle with our flesh, but we can't put a judgment on somebody by what we see on the outside.
We believe in seeking God for who we should vote for, and pray about it and see who he wants us to, and we may not always understand that, but he's got a wisdom that is above our own.
And by first looks of everything, when we were watching the debates and all that kind of thing, you would think, oh my gosh, and I myself was like, oh God, help. And then I had prayed and said, Lord, I'm asking for who you would have to be selected. And when he won our primary in the state of Virginia, I was very upset. I thought, oh my gosh. When I said that, I felt very convicted in my heart. I just got a bad feeling, and I felt like the Lord was saying to me, did you not ask me to put who I wanted? And why are you doubting your prayer? We
Yeah.
cannot judge by the outward appearance of man, because man looks at the outward appearance. God looks at the heart.
And if we go by our faith in the Old Testament, we see that God will raise up leaders and put down leaders. And he did that for nations outside of Israel. So we see that in like the book of Daniel and Jeremiah and in Ezekiel. So we see him raising up leaders and putting down leaders, and that there's some type of sovereign control that he has that we may not see or understand for his purposes and for what he wants to do in the world.
Our part is to just trust that he is God, that he is good, and that he is going to do what's best for us and to establish his purposes. But our whole point in that is to trust him, that he is always good, even if things don't always look so good. And I did have a dream before all that, and sometimes God does speak to us in dreams and visions. I don't know if you guys may have had a dream that you felt like maybe it was out of the ordinary. And
Sometimes,
Yep, God does speak in those ways. And I had a dream before the primary, and it was just of it was a gold placard. It almost looked like a license plate, and it was a crown on it, and it had Trump's name. And I knew what it meant when I had the dream.
What's your first things that comes to mind if you have a message for Europe? Or for us? Yeah, for us.
I don't know a lot about other countries because I've never been out of here, but I love it, and I think that I just love you because you are no different than we are. God created all of us, even though we have diversity and differences. We are all God's creation, and he loves you just as much as he loves us. There is no barriers in between us. Man has done that, God has not, and we just embrace you and we love you like he would. We are made differently, but that's the beauty of God's creation, because he did that. It's like his awesomeness in creation. So we want you to know that, and we embrace you and welcome you here. And even on behalf of those that may not be like that and they claim to be Christians, we ask for your forgiveness on their behalf, that you would show them mercy and pray for them.
It reminds me, if you're saying President Trump talking about the border and about the wall and working against immigrants or Mexicans.
The immigration problem with Mexico, I really believe that, as far as that goes, that we should be seeking peace between our nation and Mexico, and we should have peace. But I think there needs to be a working together with the president and the president of Mexico to work on this problem. Is a border wall the best solution? I don't know. That might create too much a divide, and I'm not sure I have the wisdom to answer that question. Do I wish that there was no illegal immigration going on, and the tide would be stemmed? Yes, I do. There would be some type of diplomacy where our president and the president of Mexico could do that and come together in that before a wall is built. Yeah. And I would just like to say one thing. You mentioned your question about a message for Europe.
Yeah.
I would just say there's hope. I was in France there. I just saw that there was a lack of hope. I haven't been to the Netherlands, but I've been in the different
But I can
countries.
imagine that if you compare to the United States, what we notice here for hope and positive attitude towards the future, it's a lot more vibrant around here than in Europe.
It is. And I want to say to Europeans that there is great hope. And not to despair about the things that they see in the world, whether it's in the Middle East or in Israel or in the United States, and to say that, hey, we can build a future that is good.
How do you feel when you look at the battleship and all the aircrafts and the submarine?
It makes me really proud to be part of this country and to see all of the things that we get to be a part of as Americans.
And is there a thing that worries you at the moment about where America is going?
I mean, I trust my country, and I feel like we have good leadership right now.
You voted for Trump?
I did. I voted for Trump, and he did too. I just felt like he would bring difference. He's not a career politician. He doesn't, get into politics. He doesn't need the money. I feel like he's doing it just for the love of our country.
Can everybody enter the U.S. Regardless?
Absolutely, yeah. It doesn't matter where you come from as long as you do it the right way. If you're going to come over here and work and just like everyone else, then we shouldn't have to pay taxes and support you if you aren't even a citizen of this country. It's perfectly fine for anyone to come over here, just as long as they do it the right way.
Trump had a ban on countries mainly Muslim. Did you agree with that measure?
He was just trying to keep our country safe at the time, and he was doing what he knew how to do best and to keep our country as safe as he could. Because we don't know, all the stuff that's going on right now, and he was just trying to keep our country safe from people that might come to hurt it.
Okay, yeah.
There's a lot of stuff in his campaign that I liked. It's just that seeing if he's going to carry out what he said he was going to do. I'm satisfied so far. So far with it. A lot of people see our country and just divided into two separate things, but it's a lot more than that, because when people come together on their views, it doesn't matter what party you are, as long as the end goal is the same, and as long as we're all working to make our country better. I feel like the parties don't really matter. The people here are a lot nicer than you would think, especially in the South. People are very hospitable, they're very nice, and they're very welcoming to many people.
For you, what would be your message to the European people?
America's great. I love to live here. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's a great country. You don't know how privileged you are until you go other places. I went to Nepal in December, and you just don't realize how much privilege that you have here until you go and see people that don't have it. So America's a great place to be.
We had those thoughts about the Deep South, but if you travel through the Deep South, everybody is really talkative, everybody is really nice, really sweet, they really embrace you as a foreigner, and we saw that a lot also in the interviews. They really embrace everything that's not American. Well, you have the thing that they are really close-minded or something like that. I never encountered that really. Maybe only in Daytona Beach, but...
Well, actually, what struck me, which wasn't an interview we've got on camera, but the one guy that I spoke to mostly in Daytona Beach, on the one hand, he was naive about the rest of the world and about our cultures, about not having traveled. But actually, because of him stating so and being really apologetic about it, he was the most nuanced person I met throughout the entire journey. And he was very interested in our way of doing politics. American values meant to him in gun control or social welfare, about his medical insurance, for example, about our safety on the streets. And all that, he was really interested in getting to know more about our country, about Europe in general. And those kinds of questions I actually haven't really encountered throughout the rest of the journey.
I think in general what I encountered is that people in America, they know a lot about their own country, they like to talk about their own country, but they don't even besides the interviews, we had a lot of conversations with people, because people are generally very chatty.
They are.
You encounter people very quickly and they're very open, and then you wind up in a 2-hour conversation with the people, and or you wind up drinking tequila with a person. Yeah. Their main focal point is their own country. I think that's also a thing that they learn on high school or on TV, that their media and their education system is America focused, and maybe they are not like looking over their borders as much as we do in a small country like the Netherlands. And maybe also...
But they were way more open to people and to us than in the Netherlands. If you travel to the Netherlands and you don't have that much talkative points, you don't see that much people. The same as if you went to pubs. Everybody in the Netherlands, not everybody, but a lot of people in the Netherlands are going to pubs in groups and standing in circles just closed off for the rest of the world in the pubs. And if you go out in America, everybody stands open to welcome you. You have a lot of conversations. So I think they are more open to people and to conversation. Maybe their focus point is their country more, but they're more open to people in general.
Yeah,
and I think
I agree.
that's a difference what's in Europe. Maybe we know more about the countries abroad, but we are more focused on ourselves.
What I meant about that, they're quite closed off when it comes to history or political knowledge or political system. They ratify their healthcare system, their gun laws, voting Trump, because I think they have a lack of broader perspectives. They don't know.
When did you encounter that in the journey, or how does because I think you had that point of view already before you took the journey.
No. I also experienced that in Daytona Beach. He said the Democrats want to make a sort of a dictatorship out of the United States because they want to enforce healthcare, blah blah blah. Lots of things that we have in Western Europe. And I asked him, we have that in Western Europe. Do you think our country is not a democracy? And then he said, no, of course you're a democracy and blah, 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 blah. But that was sort of, for me, a moment that I thought, okay, you don't really know a lot about other countries than your country, and you're defending your own political beliefs, the Republican vote, against the Democratic vote because of a sort of false perspective.
Yeah, I have something to add about that, because the guy that I spoke at the same time, also in Daytona, Florida, was really interested in knowing about our way of looking in America, now in an era of isolationism, America first, drawing back, trying to be less influential in the rest of the world. And he was really proud of that, given that he was expecting Europeans and other countries, other areas in the world to be not as happy and welcoming their military influence, their political influence. And he thought that it would be a good thing for us and for the rest of the world to have less America, dominating and influencing the world. While at the same time, he wasn't really aware of Europe's current struggles and fears about America retracting from NATO, perhaps even damaging the existence of NATO and at least funding NATO, and the international stability that America could bring and could help us maintain within Europe, especially given Russia's threat. He hasn't really considered that part and that way of looking at it, that we would actually welcome America's influence and America's help and support, financially, military and politically. So his view was, well, isn't it good for Trump and for us to draw back?
Because he thought that everybody disliked America.
Exactly, which we don't, because we really encourage and we like. But he was really baffled about finding out that we weren't hating America. He asked me 4 times, so you don't hate America? No, we love America. That's why we're here. We're trying to learn more about this crazy country.
But then again, if you ask that question in the Netherlands, no, not everybody would say that they love America. No, a lot of people will say they hate America.
A majority?
I don't think they would say they hate America, but they would have like, okay, they are like fast food eating people, are quite superficial. That's the stereotype, that Americans are superficial, but not like they dislike America, because all of our movies and series and music, more than half of it comes from the United States.
I know.
It's a cultural leader.
That's different, right? We have a cultural leader. If they draw back their troops, they are still cultural leader. And Trump, with America First, he's not saying they won't be the cultural leader anymore. Sure. They are only saying that for military and diplomacy. Effect. That's what we're talking about, right?
But still, I think a lot of people
I think a lot of people really want America to back down. Even in Europe.
Well, I don't have a clear view on how people in the Netherlands or Europe think about that topic, but
I think we would welcome them more than see them leaving, and especially dealing with the military and diplomatic threats that we now have to face looking east without America. I think that would be worse off.
Yeah, me too.
But now Trump is the president, we see America as more unpredictable than before. We don't know what's going to happen, and tensions with North Korea, or tensions with Iran, tensions with Cuba, sort of alliances that Obama was trying to fix with Iran and Cuba. It's like Trump is trying to put up the pressure, so maybe the newborn alliances or the sort of detente in the struggles will sort of light up.
But still, this is what we encountered in New Orleans, right? Because the lady we spoke to, already mentioning America is crazy, she was really doubtful as well about this seeming instability, the unpredictability of President Trump.
The bath mouth thing, and that would
bring them in. What do you think about that conversation with her?
I think she was a very special lady. Yeah.
That's condescending.
No, I really liked the conversation, but she was from Texas, but not what you, of course, we're talking about stereotypes. We're expecting of a Texan. She worked in a strippers bar. She said she was a waitress there.
Not stripper
Topless
bar.
A topless bar.
That's not.
Of course,
that's
that's
stripper bar.
Topless
No.
bar.
And she liked having that freedom of choice, which she mentioned specifically. That was America to her, that she could do anything.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, and that she disagreed with the immigration policy of Trump, but she also disagreed with the measures that Hillary Clinton was planning for small and medium businesses. So she was really a swing voter, and she didn't vote because she said, I have to choose between two evils, which I'm not going to do. So after my travel, I really feel sorry for Americans that they have this bipartisan political system, because I think it's doing more wrong than good.
And what does it mean to be American for you?
Kind of means that I can go where I want to and do what I want to.
It's the freedom aspect.
Yes.
Are you taking all the freedom that America gives you?
They're taking some of it back, but...
Like what?
You know, I mean, just about the taxes and immigration. I mean, like, now that Trump's in, and he's trying to stop, all the people coming in, Not everybody's a terrorist, know. I can't say that I'm a Democrat or a Republican. I look at what they...
You're a swing voter.
I'm a swing voter, yeah.
Okay.
I don't get, I just... You're voting for the better of your country, so I just... First year I haven't voted. I didn't feel like there was anything to vote for. I thought I was going to lose either way, so... Donald Trump, he has a lot of good ideas. He's so used to being the head of this giant corporation and being the top dog, so he didn't have to ask anybody when he wanted to make a change and everything, his policies and everything. He just doesn't want to go through the process of the government. I think his mouth could get us in a lot of trouble, and that you have to have tact when you're talking to your country.
In a Dutch saying, we would call such a person maybe an elephant in a porcelain cupboard.
A bull. We got a bull in a china closet. That's Donald.
That's the Texan way.
Yeah, Donald's a bull in a china closet.
Are you worried now that Trump is president? Are you worried about his current policies or his doings? Or his,
I worry about his immigration policies because this country is built on immigrants. Everybody came through New York, and got their citizenship. And, the Mexicans, there are a lot that come in the right way, but the illegal ones, I think that we should stop that. I don't think they should be stopped from coming here. I just think they should come in the proper way.
How would you prove that Americans are not crazy to Europeans?
Oh, I couldn't, honey. We are crazy.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We're traveling to the south. We've seen a lot of rednecks that are really convinced of their opinion, but what we in the end saw was that because of the two-party systems, the difference gets way out of hand, way out of context, and they're just blown up. But if you speak to the people directly, they're much more nuanced and much more open, much different than you should expect.
Yeah, but they have no platform for the opinions between the two candidates.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no platform for that.
So our stereotype wasn't proven good or wasn't proven right when we traveled around, because we had that stereotype because there are two parties and that's what we see. But if you talk to the people, you see everybody is between them, and they are not that extreme.
Yeah, look at the people that we saw in Nashville, the grandpa with his grandchildren. They were moderate in any way, right? They weren't really politically outspoken to one or the other.
No, but the
Native American girl.
The Native American girl was really political outspoken, but the dad started this conversation, and that's what you always encountered in America. Trump is our president now, so we stand by our president, and that's way different than here in Europe. If you ask people in Europe, they just spit out a lot of anger. They spit out a lot of. Nobody will send to Rutte is our president, so we stand by our
that's
president.
That's also because they have a first past the post system. Like you can choose a candidate, but if the candidate is elected, even though you didn't vote for him, he or she should represent your community, your country as a whole. So even though you didn't vote for Trump, he's still your president. He's representing you, so you have to make amends.
I love the United States. I do. I've seen other parts of the world. I love Germany, Europe, for the most part. I thought very clean. I like that.
And if you look to America, what do you think makes America so great?
For me, it would be the diversity. I think that's a good thing because we get a lot of input from other areas that are different, but we can learn to work with each other.
Do you also agree with the best thing about America is the melting pot and the diversity of cultures?
So I think definitely it makes us who we are. Just the idea that coming to America can offer freedom from persecution from other countries that are war-torn and going through different issues.
And in Europe we hear a lot about Trump. Do you think he has an influence on the melting pot?
He's our president. There's the influence there. I think it goes both ways. So I guess that there are some worries, but that's part of life. You know, things change. You know, our culture isn't what it used to be here, but that's throughout the world. You know, because the world is becoming smaller in so many ways. You know, that I think we need to keep an open mind and keep an open communication. We need that. I would hope you'd always be welcome here in our country, and I hope we're always welcome in your country, you know, because I think we need that. We need to be close, not only as allies, you know, in the big scheme of things, but as people, as a people. I think it's very important.
I mean, honestly, our country was founded by immigrants. I mean, so it's the idea of not allowing people to immigrate here for whatever their reason is kind of strange because we were founded by immigrants. I mean, I am Native American. I don't look very Native American, but I am, and so my people's roots were originally in the South as a part of the Choctaw Nation, and so that, like, the Native Americans were here before our founding fathers, and so it's somehow the Native American people have found their way to work and assimilate into the American culture, and now it runs like a well-oiled machine. So that is like a perfect picture of what the future and how, because it's becoming so much more diverse, like they found a way to work it out. Why can't we do it now?
Do you like it here in America?
Yeah, because it's more freedom, you know, as you know.
Are you a practicing Muslim?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm Muslim. As you know, he's American. He's the president now, and he don't like Muslims. Maybe he thinks the Muslim, all of them are terrorists, something like that, like ISIS and this stuff. But what I want to say is, like, ISIS actually are not Muslims. Muslims don't act like that. Actually, they are killing Muslims.
Yeah, they're killing more Muslims than non-Muslims, right?
For Muslims coming to America, there are American Muslims as well. So it's like there's no difference between people. What I see, like black, white, Asian. There are people as well.
They are all people, yeah.
And maybe a last remark I would like to make is that we asked some people if we were able to put them on camera and interview them. and nobody was asking, why are you making this movie? The Netherlands, if you would do that, okay, why are you making this movie? Where are you going to publish it? Can I see the results? Can I see the draft movie before it's put online? Because it's my picture, it's my personal name. Are you going to use my name in the movie?
They were really trustworthy toward us, toward people in general, I think.
And I have really started to like that after our trip to America, because one of my biases, especially years back, was that Americans are superficial, are really overly excited, but not really. It wasn't really feeling genuine. But after my trip, it did, because I was really excited to have all this kindness and this open feeling of connecting with strangers.
Yeah.
And they all did. Throughout the country, all the states that we visited, we have seen this happening over and over again.
Much more, except Florida. Florida was a little bit less, except especially Miami. But the rest of the states was the
Americans are awfully nice.
But there's of course you enter a store and they say, hi, how are you doing? And they don't expect you to give you a life story if you have a bad day, of course. But still, they're genuinely interested and they are genuinely open for conversation. You should try to sit in the public transport in the Netherlands, in the train,
and try to talk to people.
Try to talk to the people sitting next to you.
You would be a creep.
Yeah,
you would be. Yeah.
You're disturbing me. Leave me alone. Leave me the fuck alone.
It isn't accepted to do so, to behave like that, and we're really suspicious when people are bluntly open and looking for conversation.
But still, I think they also need it, because of course they are sitting, when you look at how their cities are planned, they are very stretched out. We take a lot of walks to the supermarket, for example, because it's a walking distance, or you take your bicycle.
Yeah, but you don't talk to people when
but still, also you sit on the train, but they sit in the car the whole time, and they go to the supermarket then, and they exit the car, and then they enter the car again. But when they see each other, they are very talkative indeed. Yeah, so that's something.
It's an interesting observation.
Now I'm back, I really feel like I should be more open for conversationing and just
I'm already more talkative to people because
I think that's
liked
really
it.
good traits.
Yeah, Sjoerd will be even more talkative to people.
Yeah, I liked it a lot, so I'm doing it all around.
You were already an American by heart, far more.
Truck, yeah.
He's our American friend.
Yeah. But it was a great,
it was a great trip, and it definitely.
I'm not buying a pickup truck, however. I'm not. I'm never going to. I really don't get why you need a big pickup truck, especially if they have 6 tires. Why, in hell's name, do you need that?
Maybe a little bit of Waffle House here and there.
Oh, no. Greasy food.
We didn't even talk about the food. Let's keep that way.
Let's keep the greasy food out and
stop them at the wall.
3 things for America. What do you think of?
Really open, talkative people.
For me, it's like open, but not really open-minded, but open and friendly, really friendly.
And you, Rand?
I think still a little bit naive people, nationalist people, but also extremely friendly.